Yeah, like, are you there?
Yeah, can you guys hear me or no?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. All right, so good morning,
Audio
everybody.
good.
Let's see, let me get my recording going, make sure I have that. Okay, cool. So, good morning. I know last week it was just me, but from here on out, it should be me and Farquad. And basically, what we'll be doing every Sunday will be similar kind of to last Sunday if you guys showed up, but basically, we're going to go through our watch lists for the week. We're going to take a look at some of the tickers that were on the Saturday scan session. We'll go through, kind of consolidate what we think are going to be some solid plays and show you our thought process of going through and finding some really clear winners and kind of how we set up for the week. So this is something that we do every single Sunday or Saturday night. It's something that really helps me kind of get in the zone for trading, and it gives me good trades for a swing account where I don't really have to worry about it. I just know, kind of once I get my entry point and everything lines up, that I can let it ride, and it's kind of a no stress trade for me. And that's really what we look for with these. It's not something where you're sitting there, you're trying to day trade it, and you're like, super sketched out about it, like, oh my God, is this going to go? Is this going to be something that, I might be uncomfortable taking? Because the point of this is to find something that you're consistently comfortably, taking, and you're finding, easy to do basically. And I think that's kind of the key to, like, finding whatever works for you. And for me, a lot of these tickers don't work, but if there's two or three that work throughout the week, then I'll take them. And if there's no trade for the week, then that's what it is. So looking at, let me pull this up real quick. If we look at Track's scan session, we can see probably a couple hundred tickers. And I go through and I literally, oh, one sec, my dog's barking. Let me close my door. I go through and I basically delete out anything that I would not normally look at. And I'll show you guys what I mean. Just because this is kind of what helps me. Let's see. So I go through, and as you guys can see, like, you can sort it by divergence or no divergence, right? So I'll go through and I'll look down, and there's a ton of, there's obviously a ton that have zero divergence, and then there's a lot that have, divergence that's, maybe going to be there, but there's not like a ton of volume on it, or it's not an optionable play, or even if there are options on it, it's not going to have enough range for me. So if we take a look real quick at like June 25th, right? All I do is I come down, I look at, if there's down divergence, and I'll basically delete out anything that I don't really know, that's like not a household name, or that I've never traded, or that just looks brand new, looks like a penny stock, looks like something that I just would not even touch. And that's how I get rid of, let's say, 80% of the time that I would spend going through this list one by one and making sure that it's something that I would play. So what I've done is I've basically done it beforehand, and I basically took this entire list, and I now have JPM. I now have, let's take a look real quick. I have JPM, PLTR, eBay, Logi, and Tesla. So these are going to basically be on my list. So let's take a look at JPM first. So if I'm looking at JPM, it had a pretty hard bounce off of this weekly count right here. This monthly count right here. So here's my monthly, just for everybody that's new. Here's my weekly, and then here's my daily count. And this is all I'm looking at on a big time frame. I'm not looking at a 15-minute count, an hour count, anything like that. It's literally just big picture what's going on. So this bounced pretty hard off my monthly count, but if we take a look at the 15-minute algos right here, you can see that they were either not buying or they were actually selling a little bit on this entire bounce. So my expectation is basically that we're going to hold this daily bottom right here, and then we also have a weekly mid right here, because remember, here's my weekly count. And I basically want to see this reject off this weekly mid right here, come back down, and then go straight through my daily count right here and continue all the way back to my weekly target, which would be, this would be my monthly bottom. So should be right here, but I basically want to see it reject off this, because every time you have a bounce off a big time frame, it's not just going to go straight through every single time. Like, it's usually going to reject pretty hard off, which is exactly what happened. But you also have, you have your flow trade, I think it's the 50. You have your flow trade 50 right here for your 4 hour. You also have your weekly mid, and then you have a daily top right here, and these are crossed down. So if I'm looking at it, it's all, it's not ready yet. It's going to be probably, I'd say Tuesday or Wednesday. It needs a little bit of time. It needs to come up, test this level. And then we need to have a couple strong down days on it. And then I'll get through this daily right here. And then from there is where I take my entry. Farquad, do you have the Discord? Or do you want me to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I was gonna kind of say, if anyone has any questions while Alec is talking, I'll try my best to answer him on the Discord. And if I do need to reference Alec, I'll let him know. Okay.
And then, looking at this, it's something that you could definitely play some options on. There's a ton of open interest. There's a ton of volume. And this is also what I look for. I'm not looking for something that has 100 open interest and 20 volume. I'm looking for something that has several thousand open interest and several thousand volume, because it makes no sense for me to try and find a trade where I can't get in and out quickly in case it goes sideways. And I also don't want to sit there and fight a bid and ask spread that's, $20 or 20 cents or however you want to look at it. It's like I want to find something that I would actually day trade and just hold it for a little bit longer. I hate playing stuff that has low liquidity in terms of options. Like it doesn't work well for my system and like how I like to trade. And I like to know that I can hit sell and I'm going to get out, and I'm not going to have to sit there and like try and snipe a bid. So that's just a little tip for anybody that is swinging and is sometimes having issues with getting out, or even just in a regular day trade.
Where would you take your entry again?
I would probably go at. It's hard to see because I want to see what it does Monday, because I feel like financials are going to come up a little bit. But I'd say weekly mid almost is kind of what it's looking at. It's right at the daily bottom. So ideally, I'd want to see it not be outside of that and just reject straight off the daily bottom, like the top of it right here. But it's already outside, so it needs to come back in. So either weekly mid or daily bottom, somewhere in there. I need to wait and see how it sets up Monday or Tuesday. Snap. If we have time, yeah, I know we have a couple other tickers, but if we have time. Okay, so JPM's first one, I'm bearish on it. We'll see, Monday, Tuesday how it sets up. I'm not going to take this immediately out the gate. It's just something that's on my list. And then Farquad, you want to go through and do one of yours?
Yeah. Let me switch over to my screen here.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Can you all see my screen?
No, it's just your profile picture.
No, you're good now.
How's that now?
You're good.
Oh, what now?
Yeah, you're good.
Nope.
Good.
Yeah.
You gotta click on my. It should say I watch stream in there, Nikki.
Just say like live, yeah, just click on that.
Mm-hmm. Can you see it, Alec?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I get that.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. So what I have is, instead of just looking at Celts, I'm mainly going to focus on just a straight up support and resistance line. I will bring in Celts at the end, but just to kind of visualize things in terms of how you can see things beforehand, I like to kind of draw the support and resistance line, and this was pre-drawn from these two price point, and you can see how it respects it really well. Even when we were testing it here, it was resistance, but now we're trying to act as a support. Obviously, we kind of broke that, and ever since we have been, rejecting down. So really easy in terms of visual, like how you can see these kind of things. Same thing here. We have bounced off this price point once, twice, 3 times, about 4 times, and unless some kind of obviously market also helps with in terms of bullish and bearish, but unless we have the little bit of a huge volume come in, I do expect this to kind of come back down. I was looking at the flow trade 15-minute chart as well, just to kind of see if they could give me a little bit of a heads up. And they have been selling for about 2 days now. And this is, according to tracks, how we would kind of look for these higher high, higher lows. Instead of making a new high on the algo, we've had a lower high, and the price action is clearly showing us a higher high. And we can see we got a high, we got a previous high here. The current high is much lower, so I do expect this to reject and then come back. And in terms of entries, this would be a swing for sure. A really good candidate for spreads as well, but we can go that route a little bit later, maybe not in another class. But what I would kind of do is kind of draw uh, another trend line just to kind of see if we get a bounce around here, and how I would predict my price point would be just get a fib from that swing high to the previous swing low, and you can see how well this cluster of I guess just a sideways action here reflects where the 0.618 and 0.5 is. So these two zone is where I would expect a pullback to kind of retain if we were to keep going and retest that and break through. But in terms of entry, that was an entry on June 24th. That was the best entry. But what we can also look for is, in terms of safety wise, you can also draw another line just going a little bit higher. I'm going to change my time frame to 4 hours now, just to kind of show you, just because you missed an initial entry, because if you were to enter here, that would be a little bit aggressive, because for people that like to enter after confirmation. So what you could definitely do is you could enter after this trend line is broken, but this is also where we can bring in our Celts to kind of give us that heads up on this is the 4 hour here, just showing you that that was the monthly top that is also rejected, and monthly MACD is red, being shown by that. Looking at the weekly, nothing really to look forward to in the weekly. Let's look at the daily. All right, so there's that. With any kind of TA, you have to make sure there are preventative stop losses in case you're wrong. And you could definitely argue that this does look like a bull flag, and if that daily top holds, I'm gonna just draw that here, change the color a little bit, because you could definitely say that is a bull flag that could break to the upside, and that's something that we have to consider. So if your entry is going to be the breach of this daily top, your exit has to be either this trend line that was drawn as a bull flag, or above that 2.0 of that daily top. So depending on your risk tolerance, etc., that's how you would want to kind of see it. And I'm going to change the time frame to 30 minutes just so we can see where the 4 hours is. So kind of looks like 4 hour is not really holding it, since it is kind of going down. So it looks like a 4 hour fall in. So for me, going back to the daily here, just so we can see things a little bit clearer, I'll delete these lines here. For me, you would have to wait for that trend line to breach to get a confirmation entry, and then you can utilize Keltner channels as your targets. Either it could be the first target could be the 4 hour mid and the 4 hour bottom, respectively, like that. But I do think we are going to kind of come down a little bit in terms of AMD, because all this ride has been very helpful because of NVIDIA's run, and we do see NVIDIA is kind of slowing down a little bit on that aspect. But yeah, that's for me. Back to you, Alec.
Let's see. Okay.
There you go.
Okay, cool. Okay, so taking a look at the next one, it will be, let's see. let's take a look at eBay real quick. So looking at eBay, it's going to be pretty much, let's see. Okay, so when I look at this, it's kind of hard because, like Farquaad said, and kind of something that I think we should hit home too is you have to look at any way that a trade could go against you, and sometimes that means looking at it in a completely different light and being like, okay, is this going to, for me, could this basically backdoor off the daily top right here, like come down and then go up?
Play. We're close to Matt. He's right down the road.
I'll server mute him.
I got him. Okay.
You good? Yeah.
Okay, so I look at it as like, what would take me out of this trade? What would invalidate my trade and what I want to do with it? And it doesn't mean I'm just going to flip a position on it and then take it up. Usually if I'm looking at something like this, it's very specific because there's a reason I'm looking at it in the first place. So for me, just looking at algos on eBay real quick, I'm basically looking at this and I'm going, okay, this thing has been net selling the entire time. There's a pretty big gap up right here on Friday, and it's been net selling basically since Thursday, or since last Thursday. So I want to see this basically return at least to 66, if not, like 66.5, if not 66 or 65.5, somewhere in there. And I look at this and I'm like, okay, where is that? Where is that support that it's going to hit that I want it to basically come all the way back down to? And for me, that's kind of, it's kind of this 4-hour flow trade 50 or this, this 4-hour mid or even this 4-hour top. So I want to see it kind of come down back in this range right here. But if I look at this, there's not really anything to stop it until we get to the weekly top. Or if I draw fibs on it, or, there's going to be something up here that's going to stop it. But if I'm looking at it just from a big picture Celt perspective, which is, pretty much how I do every Sunday session, and it doesn't fail me, often, if at all, then I'm looking at it and I'm probably going to get up to here, or we're going to get a test back right here. So again, you got to see how it ends Monday or Tuesday. You got to see if you can find an entry, either where it comes back down and it just Swiss cheeses straight through this, or if we find something a little bit different and it ends up going all the way up to, $69 basically. So looking at it, it is going to be a pretty decent divergence trade, I think, honestly. The divergence is just going to build if it goes all the way up here. I don't really think it's impossible. If we look at this, it's a 2% move. It's not crazy. It had a 2% move on Friday. Taking a look at the options real quick, it's not bad. The only reason that I'd really take this is because we have high volume on this. If I'm looking at puts, we have 4,000 volume on puts to 292 open interest, and to me that's pretty. I'll show you Stoops. One sec. So for me, I look at this, I'm like, all right, we have 4K volume on something that went up 2%. These are 16 cents. These are super cheap. And then if we look, like right here, you had more volume on something that was pretty far out the money, which means somebody was, loading this stuff up. And that's kind of, that's just another way to look at it, is like, why are they loading it up like that? And like this has 7,000 open interest on something that's a couple weeks out. This has 10,000 open interest, and like that's not super normal for a stock like this. Like you can see right here, there's not a ton of open interest on calls or anything. So it's just something to keep an eye on. It's something that I look at. It just kind of checks off the boxes for me. And then that percent tool, you basically just take this trend line right here, and then you can literally just go from one point to the other. So I look at it, I'm like, all right, here's, and it shows at the top right there. So it's like, here's 2.92% or whatever to get to whatever. So you're not like calculating it. You can go like that, and go like that. You can find the angle, I don't know, whatever you want to do. But yeah, that's like something I found a month and a half ago, and I had never figured that out beforehand. So for anybody that knew that, you guys are way smarter than me. But yeah, that's what I'm looking at. That's another short opportunity for me. Yeah, Farquaad, you want to go on to your next one?
Do you just wanna finish yours, and that way we don't have to switch back
fine.
and forth?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Let's see. What was on my last one? Oh, okay, so this is going to be a potential long. We will see. This kind of looks bearish still, but um, there weren't a ton of options that were like super, super good for me based off everything I look for. So this is something that has a ton of divergence to the upside. It's just like you have a gap down right here, which usually when you have pretty strong buying correlated with this, you're going to get at least this gap up. And honestly, it might happen in pre-market on Monday or Tuesday, or it might just be too fast for me to really find a good entry on it. And that happens a lot. Like there's stuff where we'll find good downside or good upside targets to it, and the entire range for that trade will be blown out in pre-market just because of news or whatever happens. So, if we're looking at this on Saturday instead of like Thursday night or Friday morning, then and it's a setup for like an over the weekend type play, then yeah, you're gonna miss it, and that happens a lot for me, and that's fine. It is what it is. I don't need to use this to, make my daily income or anything like that, but it's just that's something to keep in mind. And for this, like I could see it probably gapping up based off if there was news or whatever that comes out, today or tomorrow morning or whatever. But I look at this, I'm like, okay, cool. I've got about I'd say like $5 worth of divergence on this. But if I look at this, which is really what you need to look at, is you got to look at the chart and be like, okay, what's happening? Big picture, what's happening? And right now, immediately looking at this, I go, okay, cool. This is out of the 4 hours. These are my 4-hour calcs right here. It's out of the dailies. It's out of the weekly. So you have what? What do you have that's going to stop this? And for me, I'm looking at this. I can even look at this on a daily chart and see if you have like a flow trade 50 or flow trade 200. And sure enough, you got a daily flow trade 50 right here. So this might be something that stops it. But other than that, you have a weekly mid right here. You'd probably have a fib retracement, or you'd have your monthly right here. And that to me isn't going to be a super solid trade, but it's something where I wanted to show it to you guys, because just because like it has divergence up doesn't mean that it's going to be ready. It doesn't mean that it's going to give you that divergence up, or it'll play out super fast and it'll continue back down. It's just like you can't just look at an algo and be like, okay, cool, this is going to be an immediate banger of a trade, and I'm ready to go. Let me throw $5,000 at this. Like you got to look at the chart and be like, does this make sense? Is it logical, or am I going to get destroyed on this trade? And for me, like I'm probably not going to take this. I'm going to watch it because I want to see what happens, just because it's interesting divergence. But I think it's like a solid example of like, don't always, like if somebody posts something in chat or wherever it is, like don't just take it blindly and like just buy 3 strikes out on some calls because it makes, like somebody said, it makes sense. Like, do your research, look at it, look at the chart, see what the story's telling you. Like it's completely under the trend bar. It's just under everything. So I don't really see this bouncing. Now if it stayed at the daily bottom and it was hovering like right here and it was kind of consolidating and then there was divergence up, yeah, that'd be a no-brainer trade for me. It makes sense. It has range up to the weekly top right here, which would be a target to fulfill that divergence. But right now we're sitting right here. The only thing stopping it's like a daily flow trade 50, which it might bounce off of, but I'm not going to sit here and take a super strong position in it based off that alone. I always take it off a Kelt. And the flow trade 50 and 200 are definitely solid, and they're good for support and resistance, but they're not, like, to me, they're not as strong as a weekly Kelt, a monthly Kelt, or a daily Kelt. And it's not that's not the only thing that I'm going to base my trade off of. So it's just an example of something where it's very iffy and it's not a very sure bet. So I don't want to, I don't want to take it. I want to find like the 90% probability plays. That's what this entire Saturday scan session is all about. You want to find something that's really solid. You don't have any stress going into it. You know exactly what you want to have happen and what it should do. And if it doesn't do it, that's fine. If you don't get your entry, it's fine. It's not the end of the world. You're always going to have more trades. You should always have that in the back of your head. So taking a look at Tesla real quick. Let's get rid of these. Okay, so looking at this, it's actually something that I think Farquaad asked. He said, well, we should probably do it. ENR. Okay, if we have time, we'll look at it. But if we're looking at this, Obviously, it's been kind of a love-hate relationship with Tesla. Like there's times where you think it's going to actually break out of the 700 range. You think it's going to go to like 750, 800. We're all going to go back to how last year was, where anybody could have made money on Tesla. And it's literally one of two stocks that I day trade. I trade Amazon and Tesla, and I trade, sometimes I'll trade Facebook, but that's pretty much it. I trade that and like maybe one or two other stocks if they're, presenting opportunities. But this thing is obviously super volatile. It's a lot of fun to trade. I honestly think that it's going to get destroyed pretty hard this week. I think we're going to rotate out of techs, and I think we're going to get at least back to the daily top right here, if not all the way back down to daily mid. Just because if we look at it on a daily chart, and I think I showed it last week, but if we look at it over the past like 6 months, basically, it's basically held this level right here. It'll hold 740 or below. If we look at it right here, it's getting close to that level, so we might see a little bit up, but it really needs some solid juice to be able to get out of this entire range. And I think with news that happened on, I think it was either Friday night or Saturday morning, about 258,000 recalls in China and a bunch of other stuff, until there's like a really solid EV bill, I think it's going to stay in this range. And I think it's pretty easy to expect it to go up to about 700 and then come all the way back down to about 600 or 580 or something like that. Like it's always somewhere in that range. And I have algos net selling on this thing from the 24th and the 25th, as this thing was making, newer highs basically on Thursday, and then on Friday, obviously it kind of whips out and then came back down. And then you have your weekly mid right here. You have a monthly top right here. So I'd ideally want to see a fall back in. Or it's going to send it straight to the weekly top. But with algos net selling, I doubt that's going to happen, especially when they're not even bottoming out. Like they're just still sending it straight down. So that's kind of how I look at it. It's just like something I look at every single night. I like to know what it's doing. It is nice that it closed outside the monthly top, so we'll see what happens. Like honestly, I'd be fine if it went straight up to 800. I think anybody would. You can make a ton of money on this thing, but that's kind of how I'm looking at it. I'd like to see it come back down. I don't think it's time yet. I think it definitely needs some more juice in it, but that's kind of my perspective on it. I know it's super fast, but that's usually what I look at every night. I'm like, okay, did it close out of a certain kilt, or is it being held down by a certain level, and does it need to break out of that? And like obviously it's been consolidating, so we'd want to see a breakout. This might just be a fake out though, to be honest. We'll see on Monday, we'll see on Tuesday. I think pre-market on Monday will be interesting to see what happens to this thing, just because of the news, and if anything else comes out. But I might be dead wrong. We'll see. I think that was it, and then let's go through yours real quick, Farquad, and then if we have extra time, then we'll go through what everybody else has. We'll go for like another 20 minutes because it's already 8 o'clock.
Okay.
And then because we're gonna end at 8:30, but we'll see. So let me.
All right.
Let me stop streaming. Here
See
you go.
my screen here. Now I'll see my screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're good.
Okay, awesome. All right. Just kind of touching on Tesla. You saw how Alec did his TA, and the whole thing with his, like, there's so many different perspectives in terms of how you can view things, right? And I do agree with him that I do think that it's gonna come back or reject in terms of techs are gonna pull back, and obviously Tesla being part of the techs. You saw what it was doing in terms of Kelts. But in terms of just straight up support and resistance line, this has been a pretty good price point to kind of either hold or reject back down. And it's not okay. Here, let me stop it, and I'll try it again. How is it now?
We got
should
you
be good now.
It's
Good?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So in terms of just looking at it from a larger time frame perspective, I drew this weekly trend line a while ago, and it's been quite respective. So what just a small lesson in terms of how price reacts with trend line is they like to kind of either respect it, or what they also do is, I'm just going to draw it out so y'all can see, they will either respect it, or once it's being um, rejected, what they do is they like to come back and confirm if that is a trend line that it likes to respect, and then it does that rejection. So I'm kind of seeing that pattern in Tesla. You have that support here, confirmation. Three touches are usually my minimum requirement for a solid trend line, and this is a weekly one, so this is a very, very solid one, like according to me, or from what I've seen. But I really like that this was a previous support or resistance. As you can see, price came back every single time. We've only broken that once after that huge run, and I really like that this was that test of that trend line as well. But that's the main reason why I do think we are going to come down in terms of just a little bit of pullback. There is a little bit of a gap here left to fill too, and if I were to just draw a quick one here, it would be nice to see if that trend line is going to be tested as well. And obviously you can bring in Celts, etc. to the party, but different perspective on the same ticker that was reviewed. It's just a good way to see things from a different point of view. So that was Tesla. Another one that I'm looking at is ZM. I'll draw this one with you guys just so it's easier to kind of notice how to draw these support and resistance line. Just kind of looking at things here, we do see this price point is a very interesting price point. It's as either we have exploded or we've either consolidated. So would be really interesting to see what would happen right here. I was looking at the Flow Algo index, and it does look like they continued buying even on that dip, but there's not enough. I wouldn't say there's a lot of there's not a lot of any divergence if there's any, but I would like for this to make a lower low while the algos keep on buying, for me to kind of see this price 375 to break. So I really want to see what happens if that trend line breaks. Same concept with this one. This is a, here you can see a little bit better in here. This is a falling wedge, which is a bullish pattern when it does break out, and same concept with this one as it is respecting these trend line. What I would want to see is price breaking out of the trend line, coming back in to test it, and then resuming its trajectory. So short term wise, I want to see what happens at this trend line. If that breaks, I would want to see what would happen in this retest of that wedge, and if that does hold, then it would be a very good candidate for long, in my opinion. So that would be a short. You could definitely day trade this one, mainly because that trend line could definitely hold, and you have a risk of it continuing its trend. So not the greatest setup, not as great of a setup as AMD, but something to watch out for if we do break this. There is some nice downside target for sure. And then another one that I was looking at is Baba. I was looking at this for a while. I know it's been just consolidating for a long time here. Please ignore these lines. Just consolidating for a long time, and it's finally this trend line has been respected for a while now, and it kind of did come to kind of save that. Oh, it's not populating. There you go. And for me, I really like that we had a huge volume come in on a day where techs didn't really have the greatest day, which is Friday. So this was very, very nice. It acted like a leader, and in terms of just that huge volume break, I would want to see this continue going. In terms of targets, you can bring in Celts on this one because they work really, really well. We have to obviously start with the larger time frame. We have that monthly mid here, and it aligns really well with the weekly mid as well. Oh, not to the exact point, but you definitely see that the weekly mid has been quite hard on it, even on February and on Aprilish. It's been rejecting and just pushing it down. So I would want to see how it reacts to this weekly mid and monthly mid. So this is one of those things you got to just watch for confirmation, because there's a lot of risk for you if you were to kind of chase this candle, because it could either just consolidate or just come back down, or we could just have a sideways action. So I want to see what happens at that monthly mid and weekly mid, and then obviously on the daily time frame we are out of the daily. So very, very bullish in terms of that, but we know that larger time frame Celts are much stronger than these smaller time frames. By larger I meant the monthly and the weeklies. So I really want to see that as confirmation before even jumping in, because you have to look at the whole price action here. I'll get rid of all of these stuff. It's been consolidating for a while, so if it does break, we have a lot of room to the upside. So there's no need to chase this at all, because if it does break, we will get a pullback entry for sure. So just watching out for these kind of price action to develop, watching the patterns, and then waiting for confirmation, so that way you're not stuck, because all these huge reversals, we've had huge pullbacks at the same time. So there are entries. You just got to be patient on them instead of just chasing these candles, because that could really put a dent in your account for sure. But yeah, I want to see Baba long for sure. I want to see if the weekly mid and monthly mid is broken, and then we can move on to the next Celt chart for sure. Okay, all yours, buddy.
Okay, so let's
I think we were gonna do questions, right?
Yeah, let's take some a couple questions. I don't want to look at the other tickers just yet, just because this session isn't always going to be about just looking at tickers. We want to help people get kind of into the next level, whether it be they have like something that they're messing up on consistently and they just want help, or there's maybe like a little tweak that we can make or something like that. So if anybody's has any questions, feel free to drop them in chat. I'll give you guys a minute. Or just say them real quick, and then we can walk through it.
You want to do it in chat, not voice?
Yeah, no, you can do it in voice. That's fine.
You can do it in voice.
I just wanted, the thing that I struggle with is just like you guys both said, when you're watching it at a certain level, whether it's at a Celt level to break or trend line, and you're watching it, like, are you looking for it to close above it? Are you looking for more than one candle above it? Because I tend to get in a little late, because I'm looking for the confirmation that it actually broke or held that level, or I don't know if I'm explaining that correctly, but I just don't know how much to watch it before I say, okay, this is broken, that level, that Celt, that trend line, or whatever.
So you have to think about it in two perspectives. What kind of trader you are. So if you are an aggressive trader, you want to get in at the rejection point. Like when I showed you Tesla, where the best price point to get in was the first tap of that rejection, and that would be a very aggressive entry for sure. But that would give you a higher reward, just like high risk, high reward. And you have to kind of accept, if you are one of those traders that wait for confirmation, you have to kind of accept that you are not going to get the best entry in terms of the first rejection, but you are there to get the second best entry. So either that would be a pullback to retest the trend line, or that could be a pullback for a 4-hour money shot, etc. So you have to kind of accept in terms of those entries that you'll get really reflects what kind of trader you are.
So is it a tap, or is it a closed candle?
I would go with the first retest, and I would just give it a 15-minute. If I am swinging, I would give it a 15-minute candle to close to see how that 15-minute candle looks like. But if you are a confirmation trader, you're actually looking for a pullback instead of letting that price action to actually touch. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So I know you're asking like if you're waiting for the candle close or no. It really depends. It depends on the setup as well. But the safest thing to say would be the candle close.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
If you had anything to add on that, Alec, you can.
Yeah, I'd say just from a different perspective, I'm an aggressive trader. Like, I'd say pretty aggressive, if not some like one of the more aggressive ones in flow trade along with Josh. Like, I'd say we definitely both just look for hard bounces off a 4 hour daily, weekly, anything like that. And I'd say it really depends what you're comfortable with. I know I speak to a lot of people where they want something that's slower and they want something that's more sure. And I think Trax is a perfect example of that. I mean, he makes a ton of absolutely amazing trades, and he's an amazing trader. But he always looks on a 5 or 15 minute chart, and he looks for something to start flagging a bull cycle or has actually flagged a bull cycle. And I think that is something that if you're beginning and if you're still finding issues with your entries and you're trying to really just kind of nail down the process, I think that's a better way to go about learning the system. I think that's honestly a lot safer and probably a more profitable approach. And I think, taking your time is in being patient with it and waiting for a candle close like on a 4 hour, like right outside of a 4 hour bottom or something like that, to find that really good confirmation will help you a lot with being able to hold longer versus me where I'm like, it's going, and then I can buy, a starter position on it, and then when it gives me confirmation, then I already have like 10% profit, and then I can kind of ride with more contracts. But it really depends on the style, and I think, waiting for that confirmation, especially when you're learning, and still kind of finding your balance with how you want to use the system is key to it. So I'd say, yeah, probably wait for it to close outside, whether it's a 2 minute or a 5 minute, anything like that.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate that.
Of course. Let's see. I'd say one thing I do want to touch on real quick is, and I know this is going to be kind of a continuation of Friday, just because I think it really needs to be, hit home, is when we're looking at trades in Farquad. Feel free to speak on this after I share my insight. But when I'm looking at a trade, I'm not sitting here actively looking for a trade every second of the day. I'm not flipping through 100 tickers. I'm not, running like a chicken with my head cut off. I'm really looking for, I'd say at max, 5 tickers at a time, and I know kind of what every single one's doing. I have them up on my screen. I have, big time frames up. I have, 2-minute charts up with intraday stuff, and I know what level it wants to hit, or what level I want it to hit, and what I want to do with the trade when it gets to that level. 90 to 95% of my day is literally spent just hanging out, talking to chat, answering people's questions, waiting for those setups, and the other 5% where I'll actually go home, or I'll actually go in and I'll make the trade, and it'll either work out or it won't. And I think that's something that I see a lot of people doing, is like and I used to do it a lot too, but they get into a trade because they're bored or because they think it's going to do something. But if you take a step back and you look at it and you go, what is this? Like, you literally ask yourself out loud, what is this doing? Is this chopping? Is this bullish? Is this bearish? Is there range? Is it going to, or am I going to sit here and get theta decay out the ass on this? And you really got to take a step back and look at that before you get in a trade, because automatically you're going to be biased from the start, because you're like, oh, I want to make money. I'm in the market, I want to make money, right? And obviously the goal for everybody here is to be making really solid money, so you can either quit your day job or you can just have good extra side income, or for whatever situation, right? So you really have to take a step back, ask yourself, is this going to be a good trade? And you got to go through your checklist. You got to go through and you got to be like, does this check off 1 through 5, or am I selling myself short and it only checks off, step 1 and 4, right? And I think when you find that and you learn it kind of for yourself, like you go through that mindset process, is kind of how I'd say, is like you have to go through and like tell yourself, like, does this make sense? Am I doing this because I'm bored, or am I doing this because I know this is going to make money? And you have to hold yourself accountable for that. And honestly, I write down all my trades. Like, I'll be like, was this a good trade? Yes or no? If no, why? If yes, why? And most of the time I'll look back on a trade where I lost, and it's because I was bored and I was like, fuck it, I want to make some money, and it'll be about 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time, which is like 1 o'clock or lunchtime basically for Eastern traders, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, why the hell did I take that trade? Because I know every single day from about 8:30 or 9 to about 11 o'clock my time, there's nothing going on. Like, if there's a trade to be had, it's got to be taken off a 4-hour bottom or a daily bottom or a weekly bottom or a top or whatever. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to get a good enough move, and I'm not going to make enough in the right movement for me to really want to do anything with it. So that's one of my rules. I don't waste my time doing that stuff. Like, I wait for the really good setups, and that's it. And Farquaad, you can talk about it too, but I think that's like something that really needs to be nailed home, because I see a lot of people that are like, oh, I want to get in this, and they're posting 30 tickers, and I think, you know, I'm not saying it's like the absolute wrong way to do it, but I think there's a better way to spend your time.
Yeah, you make a really good point. I really like that. Make sure all your steps are, being respected, and you're going through all those steps. And one thing I kind of want to emphasize on is that those steps that you have for your entries, exits, or if you're looking at a ticker, you should be doing those steps before the market opens. So you should be looking at those tickers before market opens, and then like creating scenarios of, okay, if it breaks this level, this is going to be my entry, this is going to be my stop, this is going to be my option strike price that I'm going to get, this is how many contracts I'm going to get. And then like that makes your life so much easier, because in your head you're already practicing what you're going to do, and then when the time comes for your entry, it's so much easier because you've already had that schedule in your head of what you're going to do, what you're looking for, what is your target. Versus, imagine if someone says, okay, watch Amazon to break, let's say 15 bottom, and you're looking at it, but you've not done your TA on Amazon, you've not done all your steps on Amazon, and you are just, you see something, like obviously you see a great setup on, let's say it's about to give a 15 backdoor, and you see a great setup on Amazon, but you haven't really spent time on what strike to get, how many contracts to get, what's your target, etc. But you do see that setup. Those are the kind of trades that are going to be a little bit dangerous for new people, because you're just getting in because the setup looks good. You haven't really done your homework, because if that setup does not turn out to be good, now you're just sitting there in red, hoping and holding, which is one of the dangerous thing, obviously, for new traders, but also for even experienced traders, because sometimes we are stubborn as traders and we just don't let go of our losses. So very important advice to just do those homework before the market opens. Have that in your head before jumping in a trade.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think I say it probably at least once a week, if not more, but, I do homework every night, and it's like you wouldn't show up to, if you had like a big presentation for work, right? You're not going to show up to work and not have practiced it before, or not have even just looked through it and made sure there are no typos or any other errors, and you want to make sure that you know what you're going to talk about. So trading is the same thing. If you want to make some substantial money, like if you want to make 30 grand a day like Josh, or even if you're making $500 a day, that's still like 150,000 a year or something like that. Like that's a good income. That is a very nice salary. And that's coming from a dude that lives in California, where the cost of living is ridiculous. So I know they can get you a lot farther in different places, but even to just pull $500 a day off the market, it's, you got to show up, because it's still a job. And once you start treating it like a job, and you really kind of get into that mindset and go, okay, I'm going to make this a career, because it is a career. You're constantly going to be learning. You're constantly going to be battling different stuff. You're basically fighting robots 90% of the day. You're not taking money from retail. You're taking money from robots. It's all high frequency trading, and you're basically just fighting them the entire time. So you got to show up with the mindset like, hey, I'm gonna do this, and I'm gonna do this right. I'm gonna whole-ass this, basically. Like, you don't want to half-ass anything, especially with trading, because it's your money on the line. And if you're not ready for it, that's perfectly fine. You can paper trade. Nobody's gonna care. You're actually going to save yourself money, because if you're not losing money, then in my eyes you're making money. Whether it's $0 on the day or you make $1,000. I don't care. Anything's better than losing money, especially when you're beginning. You're beginning your career. You're even halfway through it, and you're just trying to find something that helps. It's like, take a couple days and don't trade. Just literally paper trade. Sit here and be like, all right, cool. I'm gonna watch some 680s on Tesla, and be like, cool. My entry's 1580 on this because it's the mid, and you want to see if it's gonna bounce off, this real quick and see if it's gonna go up. There's nothing wrong with it. I think that is probably like the most underrated advice that I've ever given, and I give it to everybody. It's like, if you come to me and you said, hey man, I didn't make anything today, I made $0, but I learned a shit ton, in my eyes you made money, because you learned something about yourself and you learned how to trade. And that comes from sitting here watching, and it comes from being prepared at night, or being prepared in the morning, depending on what time zone you're in. Like, Stoops is up at 6:30 Eastern time, and I gotta wake up at 6 o'clock Pacific time. So he's got 3 hours on me to, do morning charting, but I'll be up at night for 2 hours and I'll chart. That's why you guys always see it late at night. But it's just something to think about. Like, you wouldn't show up to, even in high school or college, you wouldn't show up to class with your homework not done. So you might as well show up to the job that you want to make, you want to use to make yourself a millionaire. You want to show up prepared. You want to show up ready to go, and you want to know what's going on, especially for the tickers you're trading. So if for me it's Amazon and Tesla, well, I should know what Amazon and Tesla are doing pretty much at all times of the day, if that's what I trade, because you want to get really good at a couple things. You don't want to be really mediocre at 1,000 things. You want to be really good at 1 or 2 tickers, maybe 3, and that way you can hit home runs every time. Because all you need is one pattern and one stock to make a living. That's all it is. And then when it does that breakout, or that it tanks or whatever happens, you make the money on that, and then you can walk away because you're comfortable knowing that that's going to be the move that you make $1,000 on, or whatever it is.
Anyone have any questions in terms of anything that they're struggling with, or feel free. All right, go ahead.
Can I get a copy of the Thinkorswim Celt that you used for me?
Yeah, this one?
I can't see it, but the one that you were showing earlier today.
Yeah, of course. So it should be in the indicator section, but yeah, I'll send it over.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, of course. If anybody doesn't have any questions, then I'm going to go ahead and end the session. But as always, feel free to shoot me a DM or shoot Farquad a DM. Any of us are available, and we'll get back to you guys. And especially if you guys just don't feel comfortable asking it in a group, as always, feel free to reach out. And then I am going to post this. Last week's the file got corrupted or something. I just couldn't upload it. So we'll post it to YouTube, and then we'll throw it in the videos section. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much, guys. Really appreciate this.
Yeah, of course.
I have one more quick question for you.
Yeah.
When you're looking at a bull flag, as it's dropping, when do you jump back in? When it turns, or when it makes a new high?
I can take this one, Alec. So once again, it depends. If there is a solid support right below that. Here, let me share my screen, so I think it's easier.
And then also, as a follow-up question, when it comes back to retest, are you looking at it to retest the middle of the kilt, or just touch it somewhere?
Can you see my screen?
Let's see. Yeah, but it's now I can see it.
So basically, this is a typical pattern for a bull flag, right? You got either it's going to be a parallel channel or look like a little wedge. So same concept with aggressive entry versus confirmation entry. Your aggressive entry could be here, depending on if it's a 4-hour backdoor or a 15 backdoor, whichever celt you use. Or if it's a fib entry, right? So this could be your aggressive entry. But what normally people say in terms of when to take it, in terms of confirmation, you want to take it. You want to take it when that previous high is breached. So your confirmation entry would be here, right here. And then that way, if it does not get breached, you are not, you're not taking the trade. And if it does get breached, you have a higher chances of getting a new high according to, I think, the statistics and stuff like that. I can send the website that has the stats on like which patterns are the best and which or what are the like fail rates and stuff like that. I'll post it in the Discord, but that would be your confirmation entry.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Anyone else?
Cool. Well, thank you guys
Alright.
for showing up, and we're gonna post this on the video section. And then if you guys have any questions, feel free to shoot us a DM. But yeah, have
No,
a good
thank you.
good
Thank you
weekend,
very
guys.
much.
Of course.
Thanks, guys. Later. Bye.
Later, guys. All right, cool. So that was another Sunday session for us. I think it was, it's super helpful to have a lot of people, come in, they show up, they ask a lot of questions, really anything that they're struggling with, we always try and help out with. So if you guys haven't been to a Sunday session, please, feel free to hop in anytime. We're going to be here every Sunday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We're always here to help. I do this full time. I know Farquad does this full time, and a lot of the other pro traders do it as well. And really, we just want to give back, because the only way we learned was asking questions. And I think, having a community of people that really are here to see you grow is going to help you a lot more than, really anything else. So, yeah, that's it for this week, guys. Have a good one.